None of us live forever, except Bryan Johnson. Just kidding. And by the way, if people want to know my take on Bryan, I've known Bryan for a long time. We go way back. And I think it's wonderful that he's doing what he's doing. And I think he's, I don't know him well enough to say, like, people always want to know, like, what's he, I think it's great that somebody's exploring the field of longevity from the perspective he is and other perspectives. So that matter.
I got to give you my take on Bryan. So I've seen Bryan in person maybe 2 or 3 times. I was at Roatan, an island off Honduras, with him.
Okay.
At the start of this year. And then I did a Jeffersonian dinner, breakfast with him.
Very Bay Area to do a Jeffersonian dinner.
Yeah, well, he brought some of the Bay Area over, and I had some of his nutty pudding. And I had to sit down with him. And the way that I think of Bryan is kind of like a scout in an army. So it wouldn't do to have an entire army filled with scouts. It would be a pretty shitty army. Mm-hmm. But I'm more than happy to have that one guy who apparently is built to be a scout go up that really dangerous hill over there that maybe the view's beautiful, or maybe you slip and a catastrophe occurs or something, and come back and tell us what he found. Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you.
He's a bit of an astronaut.
Correct. Yeah. You expend time and effort and resources and all of that, finding out stuff. I'm all for him doing that. And I'll take the, top 20% or whatever that gives the 80% of the insights from him.
He's part of this incredible tapestry that's being built of public-facing health and science information. Never before in human history has health and science information been dispersed in the way that it is now, through podcasts, through traditional media, from physicians, from scientists, from ancient wisdom stuff. I mean, I can sit back from all of it, see Bryan, see my position in the field, see the Lane Norton, see the people that attack us, see the FDA, see the NIH, and I can look at it and, listen, I was on a grants review panel until, a little over 12 months ago. I was a regular member on there. I've reviewed grants, written grants, fortunately gotten many grants funded. Plenty of grants didn't get funded too. I understand the process, and I understand people's different orientation, and realize that we're all after the same thing. We all want to live longer, healthier lives with more vitality. Like, we're all after the same thing. And what I'm interested in is the overlap in the Venn diagrams. So if you call it Yoga Nidra or NSDR, if you're talking about REM sleep and the dynamics of spindle waves in the brain, or you're talking just about your dreams and you're doing a dream journal, ultimately, I'm interested in the practices that are true now, that have always been true, and that can evolve through technology that are going to allow us all to be healthier mentally, physically, et cetera. That's the mission. So you nailed it. You want a Bryan Johnson on the mission. You want a Lane Norton on the mission. I like to think you want an Andrew Huberman on the mission. You want Chris on the mission. You want all these people on the mission, and the FDA and the NIH, and you want the arguments. What you don't want, and what I see is incredibly counterproductive, is people taking the stance that only their view is the appropriate one. As long as people voice their motivations and their logic for proposing what they propose, it's mostly all good, except the stuff that's dangerously bad. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's not good. But listen, I chuckle at the idea that any one of these perspectives is going to be the perspective. And in fact, I throw my head back and laugh, because if you look historically, all you have to do, if you really are having trouble sleeping, or if you really want a dense book, The Prince of Medicine is a beautiful book that talks about Galen and how our understanding of the human body and medicine really evolved from really people being allowed to do more and more in terms of human dissection and analyzing the human body, something that wasn't allowed prior because of rules about dissecting human bodies. And the understanding that government bodies plus funding plus curiosity have all, been these competing forces, and that the acceleration of science and medicine is now taking place at a rate that is unprecedented. CRISPR, brain-machine interface, and yes, I'll say it, psychedelics and supplementation, they're just compounds. People go, supplements, none of that's regulated. Yeah, and you could also have a conversation about SSRIs, which have huge value, but can also do huge damage. So any qualified psychiatrist will tell you that. So right now, we are on an accelerated path, and I think the challenge for most people is they're drinking from the fire hose, and they don't know which filters to put up. And so all I can say is it's super exciting, right? It's super, super exciting, but you want to argue about these different orientations about as much as you want to argue about which genre of music is best. There's just no answer. right? Most people love Taylor Swift, and there are people that also love other forms of music. And you're always going to find outliers at the extremes. So unless something is dangerous, right? I think that most of the ideas I see out there warrant further exploration, and some are just really darn good. So I'm glad that Bryan came up, because I think he represents one spoke on the wheel, and it's an important one. In his absence, I think the field will progress less quickly. I just wish that people would look at things through these lenses. I also think for the generation coming up that were weaned on social media, it's very important that they realize something that David Goggins has said. I just feel like it's appropriate to say this right now. Right now, because most of what's happening online is a consumer-based environment, I think he said it's easier than ever to become extraordinary now. That it's hard to overstate the power of putting away the phone and doing some writing, or putting away the phone and doing some musical training, or putting away and then using social media as a place to put your efforts out into the world, as opposed to place your efforts while standing there obliviously in the real world. Like the people that realize that the direction of flow needs to be from real world into electronic world and out, as opposed to the other way, are going to be the ones that are going to succeed in life. Barring some accident or injury, you're almost guaranteed success relative to your peers. It's that simple.